Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share this program so that your friends can know exactly where the conversation is taking place. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. And in both cases, hit the notification button. That way, you'll get notified as soon as we go live, and you can participate in the live chat as the program is going on. Also, make sure to visit fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It is the place to go to get all of your Pro 2A swag. I'm talking t-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, stickers, you name it. It's all right there at fpcgear.com. And the best part is every dollar that you spend goes right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. All right. You guys know that here at FPC, when we talk about the Second Amendment, it's not just this sideline thing. It's not something that's like, oh, well, this is your normal, political public policy issue area. We try at every level to discuss and talk about the Second Amendment so that people understand where it comes from and understand that it comes from that fundamental human right of self-defense and that it manifests itself in an even greater way, in our Constitution, as it's enumerated as our right to keep and bear arms. So we talk about it at all different levels, philosophically, politically, legally, and all of those areas. And so I want to bring an individual on the program who, in my opinion, does one of the best jobs of talking about the Second Amendment and what it really means to all of us as Americans. In particular, though, what I like is his perspective in helping people understand, people who traditionally haven't supported the Second Amendment. He's really good at, in particular, talking with them. So I wanted to invite him to come on to the program, and that is our good friend, Mr. Kevin Dixie. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Craig. How are you, brother?
Man, I am doing fantastic. I am too blessed to be stressed.
I like it. I like it. Good.
So, first of all, just, and our many of our viewers are familiar with you, but many are not. Do me a favor and just share with our audience a little bit about how you became an advocate for the Second Amendment. Not just a guy who's into guns, but an advocate for the fundamental right to keep and bear arms.
All right. So for the people that don't know me, I got to warn you now that it's a little bit of a downer, but it picks up really, really quick. Just stay with me. I am from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from the inner city of St. Louis, Missouri. It's guns to us were always obtained, carried, and used by two type of people. That's what cops and criminals. And what I noticed early on is when I first got introduced to a gun, that the power of a firearm was so great that if it was used for good, it was really, really good. If it was used for evil, then evil would persist and evil would go on unless it was met by a good force. So I'm like, well, clearly you want them because good stops evil. And if you're using it for good and there is no evil, then who gets hurt? But my first encounter with one was actually a buddy coming and running me saying, hey, come up to my house. Went up to his house. I was 13, almost 14 years old. He finds his parents' gun. We load the thing and we shoot it. And because of my upbringing and a lot of stuff I had been through, my first thoughts when it came to shooting a firearm were actually suicide. And so I decided to, I dealt with that as a kid, fought through that, did everything that I had to do. And I always advocated for betterment of my community. I wanted people to understand what I was going through and how they didn't have to go through it and how we can all come together and be better. And without political figures, we could rebuild ourselves and become a stronger people. And I started, as I was out as a young man advocating and fighting for just the betterment of humans and civil rights, I started noticing that guns came up in the conversation a lot. And normally from the politicians I was encountering that were trying to convince us that everybody that was a member of the NRA or that was a white guy that owned a gun was a racist. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know about that. I'm too much of a critical thinker. So as I persisted on, I took a job at the St. Louis City Police Department when I turned 21, actually got my first formal training with the firearm. And from there, kind of became addicted to it and started to realize that not only are these things entertaining and fun when it comes to the rights of it, I didn't realize that even though I was trying to get people to understand their human rights and fight for their civil rights and invest in themselves, I had never connected the gun with that. And then when I really got introduced to the gun, I realized that this entire time I was fighting, there was one civil right that I was missing, and it was gun rights. And gun rights actually protected everything else that I was dealing and talking about. So guns are holistically a part of human freedom and a human growth and human preservation of life. And so from there on, I was like, well, if I'm going to be fighting for civil rights, I'm fighting for all of them, and we're going to keep our guns.
Well, and that's the key. It's kind of funny. And people always talk about it like this limited thing about, the Second Amendment was about that history and time. And, I always go back to when Jesus said, look, if a man doesn't own a sword, he should sell his cloak and go purchase one. Mm-hmm. Right? The idea that you have a responsibility, a right, because, by the way, the flip side of every right is a responsibility, is that you have a right and a responsibility to defend yourself, the gift of life that God has, placed in you, or whatever you believe. But you have a right to defend that, a responsibility and a right to defend that life, but also to defend the lives of those whom you care about, mm-hmm. and the community you care about.
Yes.
And to do so, guess what? You need to be properly prepared and have the right tools to do so.
Absolutely. One of the things that I tell individuals, freedom is personal, right? And because we all have something that we equate to and we want to hold on to it because we value it differently than maybe the next guy or the next girl or whatever the case may be. But freedom is very, very personal, even though it affects all of us. And I, coming from where I come from, and my story is not unique at all, but when you establish and work for everything that people always told you that you could or maybe couldn't get, if you just go work hard and you'll get a house and you'll get a wife and you'll get a family, you just got to keep going forward. All right, I'm one of the few that actually was able to make it out of my environment and obtain those things. But what is the point of working 15, 20, 25, 35 years of your life to get to a point of measurable success when all it takes is somebody 30 seconds to knock on your door and say, give it all here? How do you protect that? It makes no sense.
Well, exactly. Now, what I like in particular about what you do is you don't just stop at your words when it comes to communicating the message about civil rights, liberty, and freedom, but it actually plays a role in your firearms training, but also in the firearms that you help produce and the packaging there that surrounds that whole thing.
Oh yeah, the Truth Firearms. When I got to the point to where people were like, "Hey, you know what? I had a couple of close buddies that knew I was working on a gun behind the scenes, and it was just going to be a gun for me, just a gun for me, a one-off thing." And they were like, "No, you need to put it out for the masses." I'm like, I just, it doesn't move me. Like just putting out a gun. There are a lot of guns. There are a lot of great guns. It doesn't move me. And then one day, I am a religious man. One day, God just struck me, and He was, "No, make the gun a part of you." I was like, okay. And that makes sense. And I sat down and got with the team, and we produced a firearm that mechanically is all the bells and whistles you could ever want. But the story that it tells, it is the first gun in history to fight gun control because it actually tells you why gun control is bad. It gives you historical facts when you open it. So it is the first gun to be kind of like a picture book with a gun in one to help you have the debate about gun control.
Well, and that's the thing. Firearms in and of themselves are a conversation piece, right? Yeah. People see a firearm and they want to talk about it. And they want you to talk about it. What attracted you to this gun? What made you decide to get this particular firearm? You talk about the calibers, and you talk about all the the bells and whistles. But and you've taken that to the next level and actually made sure that when you talk about those things, there's a message with it.
Yes. If you just, to me, and it's great. I'm not saying anybody that puts out a gun without a message is doing the wrong thing. I'm not saying that. But what I wanted to do is, everybody should leave their own mark on this world. And if I do nothing else, I want people to understand the way that I perceive freedom and putting out a tangible object that when you go to the range and you are shooting and that gun is working and you're having a great time, when you uncase it or case it or even think about it, you're like, wow, I am literally every moment from the moment I touch that gun, I am being educated or reminded about the tyrannical things. I'm sorry, I got a little emotional. Tyrannical things that the government has done historically, and that has a lot of traces even today to people that America wanted to sweep up under the rugs. You know, the political figures don't want to have those discussions because they understand that it puts them at a place they can't have a rebuttal. But I want the American people to see something that's like, whether you love guns or not, you can't deny the fact that the gun brings to the table. And then you can sit down and you can say, okay, maybe I just have to deal with the fact that I may not like guns, but I do understand this. So at worst case, I'm going to keep my hands off people's guns.
Right. You know, in a day and age where we're tearing down monuments to, like, for example, to the Confederate, any monument to anybody or anything that may be offensive today, or quite frankly, that represent a lot of the wrongs that this nation has done. You know, the idea is, my attitude is, we need to be having those conversations. We need to be reminded of those wrongs, because that's how you don't fall into the same mistake. That's how you don't do the same evil stuff, is by recognizing, yeah, we walked down that path and it was wrong and it didn't go so well for us as a nation. It's a stain on us as a nation. So talking about the various different things, you know, give me some examples of some of the stories that are told by your firearms.
So the one that we released last year, right around this time, was Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street in 1921. So that is a story of the individuals in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Make a long story short, segregation then was really a big deal, right? So they had a part of town that Black people were segregated to, and they built up this great city, this great infrastructure, and it was thriving. Hospitals, lawyers, schools, businesses, you name it, they had it. And because of a lie told by a young lady that was an elevator operator against a young Black man that was a shoe shiner, because of a lie, the town people that surrounded that area called Little Africa, or Black Wall Street outside of Tulsa, or in Tulsa, because of that lie, they marched on that town and in 24 hours killed between 350 and 500 people. And they were able, now those townspeople had a couple of guns, but because of some of the gun control laws, Jim Crow laws, not everybody was armed, and the guys that did have the guns only had them because of their financial means, because of the success of the area. Well, it was not nearly enough. The town got eradicated. You can even see old photos of state police planes dropping kerosene bombs on the town, right? So this wasn't just a mob of people. This was an entire community effort. Law enforcement, local people, they called in folks from surrounding counties. Like, everybody converged on this small area of the city, and they eradicated them, dumped bodies in mass graves, raped women. One story that's more horrific than many other ones, if you had to measure them, was a war vet. That was a Black gentleman, a war vet, and he stood outside of his home in full garb. And his thought process is, there's no way they will kill me, because I'm going to show them I was an American soldier. All right. And they'll pass us by. Wrong. They shot him dead on his front in full garb and burned his home. So it was just the nastiness of mankind. So Tulsa, when those people fled, then that's when the politicians came into play. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me not forget an important part. When the National Guard did arrive to, get the situation under control, they took all the firearms away from the white individuals, escorted them home, and gave them their firearms right back. Like, okay, Bob, you're home. Here's your gun. Don't do it again. All right. They went and arrested.
Don't go killing no more Black folks.
Don't do it.
And I'm sure they didn't use the word black folks either.
Oh, of course. Or hey, at least don't get caught doing it next time, right? Then they went back over to the Black community, and you'll never believe what they did to them. They arrested them.
For what?
You tell me. They literally marched back on them and arrested them and put them in internment camps, right? And so the only way you can get out of that internment camp, now, mind you, this internment camp is ran by a government, okay?
Right.
And the only way that you can get out of the internment camp is to be marked as a laborer by one of the same white people that just murdered your entire community, right? And you could be let out of the internment camp to go work, and then you had to return to the internment camp.
So, and by the way, so this area is called Black Wall Street because of the number of Black-owned businesses.
Yes.
So if you're a Black-owned business, Guess who you don't work for?
Exactly. Now you do by force.
Now you
Right?
do.
Unless you want to sit there all day, But so after the internment camps dissolved, there were a lot of individuals that said, you know what, we're going to rebuild. We're going to come back stronger, bigger, and better. Right. And that's the heart of a champion. That's what you do.
Right.
However, here come the politicians. Well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make it impossible through legislation for you to rebuild. Fire codes are going to be strict. We're going to raise taxes. Permits are going to be hard to obtain. It's just going to be, you're not going to be able to do it. We're going to make sure that by the book, you can't do it. And they succeeded. A couple of businesses tried. They fizzled out. The town was never rebuilt. And one of the more horrific things from that is they nicknamed that America's Black Eye. And they literally asked for that to be wiped from the history books. And a great way to prove that point, and I've done this across the country, but recently, both you and I had the pleasure of speaking at the nation's capital. Great job, by the way. And we spoke at the nation's capital, and there were individuals there that are tried and true to their Second Amendment. Right, 99.9% of individuals there have studied history. They know things that have occurred. They are there in support of making sure it doesn't repeat itself. They love their guns. They love their freedom. They love their country. And in front of thousands of them, when I brought up Black Wall Street and asked for interaction about who knew about it, none did. Right. Nope. And that's because it's not because they don't study history. It's not because they're ignorant. Well, they're ignorant in the fact they don't know, but they're not stupid people. It's that the government literally asks for it to be swept away so you don't find it.
Well, and that's the thing is that's why it's important to keep these things in front of people, to help people to understand. And then in this particular case, to then tie in why our civil liberties, why our civil rights are so vitally important. Because let's just be real. If you have a town full of individuals who are armed and trained and have the ability to defend themselves, I guarantee you there's a large percentage of those folks who entered that town to do whatever they were going to do. It's the first shot that rang out at them, they'd have probably turned tail and run.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's why they say that, a armed society is a peaceful society. It's a polite society. It's everything. Exactly. And in those situations too, man, one of the, it's not funny, but one of the things that is really alarming, some of the guys that were standing guard, and these were the Black gentlemen that were standing guard at the jail when they had the young man arrested because they just wanted him to have a fair trial. They didn't want the mob lynching him. A group of the white mob, a smaller section of them, walked up to the Black guy, and they looked at him. This guy had a long gun over his shoulder, right, and a handgun on his side. And a guy looks at him and says, "Hey, N-word, what you doing there with that pistol?" And that was because blacks then, you could own certain guns for hunting, hence long guns, but you were not allowed to own handguns. So that's the white guy didn't even worry about the rifle, but he went right toward the handgun as a center focus to say, what are you doing with that? Because of the Jim Crow laws, and that was a derivative of the Army Navy law at the time. So he looked at him and challenged him on that, and then tried to take it from him. And that's where the first shot came from, doing that scope.
It's so much, when you hear some of this stuff, it sounds so much like some of the laws that you hear folks trying to propose today when it comes to firearms, limiting who can own them, limiting what firearms you can own, limiting who the good people are, the people who, the whole discretion thing. And the worst part is once again, people don't know their history. And so you have people who should be opposing those laws who are actually supporting those laws because, once again, they're ignorant of their history. And that's what we're trying to turn around here with the work that you're doing with FPC. And that takes me to talk a little. I want to ask you to talk a little bit about some of the firearms that you have designed for the Firearms Policy Coalition.
Oh, it was, and I tell you what, man, you talking about excited. I haven't gotten nose jitters since I first designed the gun. But really, really excited. Had a conversation with the president of FPC, and I know me and you have talked a couple of times, and you're like, you know what? Let's do something together. I'm like, well, that makes sense, but what can we do? And when the guns came about, I was like, well, why don't we involve FPC into the process? Because FPC is all about the truth. They're all about protecting freedoms, fighting for freedoms in various ways, from the ground, from the grassroots level all the way up. So I wanted to do just that. So what we did is we partnered and we made 4 of these for FPC. It's a 4 of the truths. Now, this is going to be people's really first time getting a true glimpse at this, but this is telling the story of Rosewood, Florida. All right. So Rosewood, Florida, 1923 is the first one that I really want to pump out there with FPC. 1923 in Rosewood, Florida. What essentially happened is a lady decided that she was going to be having a little extramarital affair on her husband. Her lover left some bruises on her, and she couldn't explain the bruises. So she said that a passerby black man raped her. And so Rosewood was a town that was next to Sumner, Florida. And so the people from Sumner, Florida went over to Rosewood, which is comprised mainly of blacks, okay? Went over to Rosewood looking for this wandering black man because obviously this is where he's going to hide. Nothing was further from the truth. She was there was never a black man that raped her. So they decided, the sheriff there got a posse together to hunt for this rapist, this black rapist. That was a figment of everybody's imagination. They went to a home. The thing that kind of kicked it all off, they went to one particular home of a lady that was actually a caretaker of the woman that was making the false accusations. And they went there questioning her about where her son was at, who he was hiding in the house. Hey, where's your son? Where's your son? We're looking for every black man we can find. And she tells the mob, you all know what happened, and said out loud that she was having an affair, and they shot and killed that lady right on her porch. And then shot everybody in the house. There were kids in the house. A lot of them escaped, burned the house. And then from there, the posse turned into a real mob, and they just went out of control. The sheriff who started it, who was a government official, by the way, decided that he no longer could control them. So he actually started running around asking blacks to hide. They essentially created a miniature underground railroad with a couple of white shopkeepers and the sheriff to actually start sneaking blacks out of the town, because the mob, the posse rather, that he started turned into a mob that he couldn't control. They reached out to neighboring Gainesville, Florida, where there happened to be, the same evening, there happened to be a Ku Klux Klan rally. It happened to be going on with 500 members in attendance, and they asked them to come help. So the Ku Klux Klan came and joined everybody else, and then on their way in, they brought neighboring towns and counties and things like that. So thousands of people converged on this small town, and they would kill, burn, shoot, however they could do it, every single black individual they came into. So people had to run into the woods, they had to run into the swamps and hide there until they could be snuffed out on trains. So if you look closely at it, you can actually see you have some individuals hanging from trees, and you can see the mob there. One Klan member and a lot of other people represented from the community with their pitchforks, their fires, and things like that. At the bottom of this one, you can actually see a home that's on fire, and you can see the truth up here in the corner. I'm sorry, up here in the corner. And there's your FPC, and there's your NOC logo. When you take this gun itself out, which I'll show everybody the gun here in a second. All right, you actually have a statement from me that is there, and I'll read that statement to you. It says, a lie incited white men to slaughter and destroy the black community. A lie incited white men to slaughter and destroy this black community. Present day politicians lied to convince us to destroy ourselves. So a lie destroyed it before, and now they want to convince us to be disarmed so we can just self-destruct and allow ourselves to be destroyed. When you move that out the way, at the bottom here, you're going to get some more of your accessories, and you're also going to get all the stats of what occurred at the bottom. All right, so all those things are there, and you can see kind of the train there that represents the train that everybody had to sneak out on. So it is giving you a history lesson, literally in a box, and this one is being launched with FPC. We've also got on the gun itself, what's going to be, that was crazy. What's going to be unique about it is when you get one of these particular ones, if you look right there on the side, you can see FPC right there. It's a lot cleaner, obviously, when you see it in person, but FPC is actually engraved on the gun. You got the NOC on top, and you got FPC on the side to to really signify the collaboration. So I was really, really excited about getting this one out with FPC because I know that this case hits hard. And I know FPC is a hard hitting organization, and I know I'm loud and abrasive. And I was like, well, what a great combination. Let's go.
All right. So do me a favor, real quick, tell folks a little bit about the specific firearm.
All right. So the base model of this gun, it is remanufactured. The base model is a HK VP9. All right. So it is no longer called a VP9. It is completely redone. It is called the Truth. That is the name of the gun. Here at the bottom, the first thing, we partnered with J&L Machining and MLS Customs, and the case is a partnership with Carolina Custom Foam, also known as Burr Island Customs. And so the first thing I wanted to do is ergonomics on the VP9 are already fantastic out the box. They're really, really good. They can be improved on though. So what I wanted to do is get a stipple texture on the gun that is not too aggressive, but does what stippling is supposed to do. Excuse me. And also run the stippling all the way up the backstrap true. So you get a full purchase on the gun. So not only did MLS do a great job of getting this stippling perfect, we also ran it all the way up the backstrap of the gun, and it's on all the interchangeable panels. So when you go from medium to large or whatever the case may be, your texture's not going to change because all the panels are stippled to match. When we get to the magazine release, it is contoured slightly different to allow a better drop. Below, we do have the support stippling for support hand reference and also helping you out with the grip. This one is equipped with an M4 slide, but we can get to that here in a second. Also at the bottom, this is not a mag well. This is the Grace craftsmanship by MLS Customs to allow the gun to actually have strip features, which you can see right there. All right, magazine strip features, even though they fall free pretty well, but you still have that strip feature there to help you out with those changes if you need them. And this, what people believe is a aftermarket magazine well, is actually contoured off of the original gun itself. This is not an added piece. This is molded from the gun. On top here, the slide, what we decided to do is reduce a little bit of weight in the slide, right? And make the serrations more aggressive. This is not just a piece of history. This gun is meant to fight. So all the serrations are roughly double from the factory, all right? So they're double. They're going to grip very well, no matter if you grip just the couple you have here up top, or you grip all the ribs at the bottom, or the serrations at the bottom, or even back here toward the rear of the slide. They're all going to be aggressive, so as soon as you grip it, it's there. Also at the tip of the slide, all right, we've contoured the slide a little bit different to allow one-hand racking off of any kind of thing in your environment. So whether you're, if all you got is a stair, whether it be wood or concrete or, some kind of pointy object, you can stick it right on there, all right, and rack that slide and get this gun back in the battle in case you go down to one-handed fighting. What else on the slide? We've added 2 window cuts to the gun, all right, 2 window cuts on each side and a coffin cut up top. All right, this one does have a threaded barrel. There is a compensated model as well. This one has a threaded barrel, so hence no compensation. They are equipped with Heine front and rear sights, suppressor height sights. Sitting on top of this one, we do have the Vortex Venom sitting on top of this particular gun. You can, outside of the guns I'm talking about now, you can get any optic cut you want, but the ones that we partner with FPC all have the Vortex feature that is on them. Here is something that is personal to me. Anybody who gets this gun doesn't have to relate the same, but I am a man of faith. So the 3 different holes here don't have any significance except for the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. That is the Trinity to me. To make sure that whenever we're using firearms and we deploy them, that we are doing so in a graceful manner and making sure that we are abiding by the rules of God, to make sure we're not just out murdering people horrendously. And when you train strong to keep your enemies at bay. And that's the slide of the gun. That's the complete gun, actually. And then sitting on this one is a M-Force APL. I like the full-size APL with the threaded barrels because it gives it a nice, even, flush look. And the gun just looks fuller and more aggressive. In this particular one, too, we have a silencer code. It's a silencer code threaded barrel for the VP9 feature. I'm trying to think anything else I missed on this gun. Oh, that is it. All the internal parts of this gun have been cleaned up, but we did not replace any of them. The reason for that is I want people to run their guns hard, but I also want you to be able, you start wearing parts down to 10, 15,000 rounds. I want you to be able to easily go get a part, slap it in, get your gun back going. So I didn't want to start putting all kind of different parts internally that really didn't truly increase the functionality of the gun and leave the owner of the firearm, if they really run this gun and they get to wearing down parts, kind of just lost about what to replace it with. So we kind of left all that alone, cleaned it up, made it work for you, but left it alone. And that is the gun. It is a beautiful piece of machinery.
It looks like it. It looks like it, man. I'm excited because see, here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be giving away some of these. So what we're going to be doing is because everything we do is about getting people engaged in the fight. As much as people want to think that I'm here on Coffee with Craig to entertain people, I'm not here to entertain. I'll do a nice little dance for you, but in the end, it's about getting people engaged. It's about getting people to support the work of fighting for our civil rights. And so here's all you got to do, folks. Look. What you got to do is you need to follow the link in the description of this video. You make a donation to the Firearms Policy Coalition, and you'll automatically be entered in to win. If you're not already following us on Facebook, if you're not already on our email list, if you're not already following us on Facebook, you need to be following us on Facebook, because that's where we're going to be sending out each week, each time we're going to be giving away a different firearm. You're going to want to enter to win it. So you got to know when that's happening. The best place to do that is be on our Facebook page, number one. Number two, subscribe to our email list. It's real simple. You just go to firearmspolicy.org, and the first thing that pops up is get on our email list. Kind of simple. But in the end, I say this about every firearm giveaway that we do. I always say this. It's not about the firearm. Kevin, I love your firearms. I'm very much. I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm a fan of not just the quality of these firearms, but the message that you've made it a point to be a part of these firearms and to surround them. But with any message, there's got to come action. And that action is supporting and being involved and engaged in the fight for our civil rights. And so please take a moment. Become a member of the Firearms Policy Coalition. Contribute to the Firearms Policy Coalition. Get on our email list, and when you get those fire mission alerts, make sure that you're sending the emails and making the calls on these issues, because we try to make it as simple as possible for you. Try to make it as simple as possible. Just like what I love about this, in particular, when you start looking at all the information that's on the inside of these cases is. You don't have to be a history expert. No. All you got, just show it to folks, right?
Yeah.
All you got to do is show it to folks. All you got to do is to be there and be willing to share and be a part of that. So, Kevin, thank you, man. Thank you for partnering with the Firearms Policy Coalition. You and I have had a chance to hang out a lot over the last few years. And you are a deep brother. I learn something from you every single time we talk. And I'm just glad that our audience is getting a chance to get to know you a little bit better.
No, man, I'm thankful for your friendship and your professional relationship as well. Thankful for FPC being the org that they are and being so active and so just aggressive and on the forefront and fighting and digging and taking punches and getting back out there. That really says a lot. It reminds me of the way that I fight. So I greatly appreciate that. And I'm excited for four lucky individuals that are going to actually win these. And here's something else to remember too. That one is that one case. There's also the Black Wall Street case that we talked about. There's another case that someone that wins it through FPC is going to be the first one to have. It's going to be the East St. Louis riots, which is close to home with me. So there's a case for that as well. And then we also have the case with the Underground Railroad. There are 2 red and black guns and 2 black guns. So you are going to get 2 of the lucky winners are going to get cases and guns nobody else has. I don't even own them. So,
wow.
That is going to be, I designed them, but I don't own them yet because I wanted that individual to say, because I supported FPC, and I'm glad to see that they're partnering with KD and they got this great thing going. And because I supported them and I won the gun, that I can say that I'm the first one to have it. I wanted that to be something that somebody can say, and then I'll get mine.
Got something no one else has. Hey, I know folks would love to be able to follow your work. I know you're putting a lot of content out there. I also know you're doing a lot of work in terms of firearms training and whatnot. Where can folks go to follow the work that you're doing?
Oh, cool. Let's see. On social media, it's pretty much all the same. At the real NOC on Instagram, just put an underscore, but at the real NOC. You can also look up Kevin Dixie. That's D as in dog, IXIE. And you can go to nootherchoice.net The website is getting updated, so bear with me, but you can see classes, information. You can also find information about our community outreach program, our non-for-profit, Aiming for the Truth, where we go in and we try to help people revitalize their lives and help them avoid violence in the first place and be great pillars of society. So we have less criminal elements in the environment, and we have more just great people out there. So yeah, man, keep up with me, follow me. I'm all over the place, and I look forward to engaging.
All right, Kevin, once again, thank you so very much. Thank you for designing those firearms. Thank you for all that you do. Look forward to having you back on the show again real soon.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for liking and sharing the program and telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.